Well, I think there are three areas that we need to look at when it comes to the usage of AI and the threats that it poses to cybersecurity. First area is that AI is now able to process information and data en masse very quickly, very succinctly, very accurately for the scamsters and fraudsters out there. So what took a person or a group of people days, right, to individually read through, process, to see what potential scams and opportunities out there can now be completed in a matter of seconds or minutes for them to figure out what are the patterns that you are seeing from data. What are the patterns that they're seeing from emails that they are receiving or you're sending out, right? So very quickly they can use this information to craft various new typologies of scams, which they can then try, repeat over and over again until you fall for one. Because scams are basically many attempts at doing different typologies, and hopefully one day, when you're least expecting it, your corporation or your company could fall prey to one of them, right? It's never a single thing. It's always trying different areas, with different information, and with AI and Gen AI, it allows them to process information a lot faster and to then try different things. Secondly, around the areas of deep fakes using Gen AI. For example, there was a case in Hong Kong where an accounts clerk was invited to a video call, right, with his CEO, CFO, and his other teammates. And he went into this call, right, thinking that, yeah, he's having a call with his CEO, right, and he didn't know they were all deep fakes, right, of all the people that they were speaking to him. And as a result, it's well publicized. He made a 25 million Hong Kong dollar transfer out of the company. So the ability to then figure out what's real and what's not real in a digital engagement space, right, whether it's through a video chat, right, or through a phone call, is going to become harder and harder, right? So this is something which Gen AI, right, has enabled the fraudsters to do very well. Lastly, while it's still in development, the whole thing around quantum computing and the development of how it possibly could crack our encryption models today. We do see the speed of being able to process encrypted information will eventually be so quick and so fast that our current encryption standards today will not hold up, right, to what the quantum computing chip can do. So it's areas where companies are worried about, where the banks are worried about, right? That's something that we need to look out for, right? Which AI and quantum computing together can result in. So these are the three areas which AI has generated more concerns around cybersecurity that we need to look out for. Well, the first example I've already mentioned, it could lead to significant financial losses for the company, right? So a $25 million loss for any company, right, is huge, right, regardless of the currency it's in. So I think these are some things companies need to take note of, and it's a real problem. I think the second would be around the erosion of trust, right, both from within the company level and with clients. Within the company, the question is, how do I know what calls are coming in are actually from my colleagues or from my CEO or from my CFO? How much more processes and checks, right, do I need to basically put in place to validate that the call or an email I receive is real? So the company processing time, right, for a singular process or transaction that may have been much shorter in the pre-AI world, right, could now result in a lot more time taken, right? So whether the company is as efficient, right, in doing business in the future is questionable. The erosion of trust, of course, with clients outside. Right? If you're a company that has been hit by a cybersecurity incident and it's been reported widely, right? So how much more longer will it take you to actually regain that trust that you've built, right, with your clientele? Right? If you have been compromised, if they have been compromised because of what you've done, right? And I think those are the potential impacts that a company would face. The investment into cybersecurity protection measures has significantly risen, right, from companies throughout. I don't have industry numbers, but I do know from speaking to people and from surveys, right, that cybersecurity is one of the key concerns now, and companies are investing heavily to combat this. Secondly, I do know that a lot of companies are relooking their processes, right? Relooking how they interact with each other, right, in a digital space, to understand how do they implement these cybersecurity protection measures, right, safely, so that the current processes can run smoothly. Lastly, a lot of the way that we communicate, right, and a lot of the way that we interact with each other, I think today is undergoing a lot of scrutiny and evaluation. How do you actually implement policies to control this? And then what are the monitoring measures in place, right? If someone does breach the policy, right, that results in risk for the company. So these are some of the things that I've seen, right, companies actually put in place to combat cybersecurity, right, or cybersecurity threats as a whole. So what I've seen a lot of companies do, right, is to start investing in the following measures, right. I think firstly, of course, there's not only for the companies, but a lot of regulators are looking to implement how you protect data, right, within the corporation. And they implement fines if you do not take care of your data properly. So a lot of encryption policies are now in place. A lot of what you can and cannot do, where you can store data are in place. What you can and cannot collect from customers are also in place, right? So some of these are the things which what companies, based on what the government is basically pushing, are doing to protect data. Because if data leaks and the fraudsters get hold of it, they can use it, right, to conduct a variety of scams, right? So to social engineer you, right, to fool you into thinking someone that they're not, right? So these are things which, because of data leakage, companies now put in place a lot of protection around it. Secondly, I do think that the rules of engagement on how you use social media, right, have changed quite significantly. What you can share, right, on social media app or social media tool, or communication tool on your phone is now governed a lot more strictly. I do think that it used to be a realm which only the banks were more particular about. But as we go forward, right, I do believe that a lot of the larger corporations are taking a much more serious look, right, at what they use social media for, how they protect the whole space around that. Lastly, there are a lot of, I think, engagement now, right, with security agencies, right, to come in, really run penetration tests on their processes. How are the systems secured, right? Are they being protected from the various ways which hackers can come in, right? Both from a digital and infrastructure space and also a process space, right? So I do think the companies now are really looking at the way they allow a beneficiary to be added into their accounts payables list, right? How do they process it when employee requests for a change in the salary accounts? Because these are the ways that I've seen that the scamsters, fraudsters fish the information, send it to the company, and then basically result in losses. Right? So it's no longer so much account takeover or less of a ransomware that we're seeing. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the most successful scams now are those which, what we call authorized scams, the ones which the fraudsters make you believe that the payment that you're making to them is real, right? Whether it's paying for your supplies, whether it's paying an employee's pay, whether it's remitting something for a business transaction. All these things, if you believe you're doing it to a real person, to a real corporate, is actually those that are most successful. So an example is that last year, in some of our locations, the biggest fraud actually was nothing too technological, right? What fraudsters did was that they were basically able to go through lists of companies very quickly, identify what were their lines of business, and then give them a call, right, pretending that they were from a school. So for example, I'll say I'm from ABC school, needing to do a whole paint job for my school, right? And the painting company will say, oh, sure, right? This is my quote for your school. And then the fraudsters will reply with, no problem, but you need to buy paint from this particular company in this country, right? So then you keep pressurizing you to buy the paint, and when you buy the paint, right, then they'll disappear. Then this same MO is basically repeated, right, across all the different industries. So there's a painting company, there's a furniture company, there's a bicycle company. So it's just different requests at different times, but the MO is the same. They know what you're selling, they know what service you're offering, right? They pressure you into adding on a service which you actually don't do or need to pay for, and then they fraud you with the money, right? And with that, they were very successful, right? So as we look even at, so Gen AI would basically allow, or AI basically allowed the scamsters, fraudsters to now access information very quickly, summarize it very quickly, right, and then figure out what to do. And for these, there's not much cybersecurity that you can put in. It's more an examination of your processes, bringing someone in to look at how you do things, right? And if you are a smaller company that cannot afford to employ an external security agency, then you need to be made aware of these things, right? You make your staff aware of these things themselves so that you can react to it. So for companies which I suppose are smaller, that cannot afford to employ large security companies to do a penetration test or check the processes, I think there's some basic ABCs that you can follow, right? The firstly, double check any requests that you receive over email, right, on whether or not it's true. If an employee asks you to change their account number for payroll, if a supplier asks you to edit an account number because they have changed their bank account over email, call them back. Ask whether or not it's really true, right? Double check, and if it is, fine. If it isn't, then you know that you've been hit by some sort of scam. I think that's the simplest thing that any company that cannot afford to make processes, investment in cybersecurity, right, can do, right? Because it's something easy to implement, right, that all the staff can follow. Next, look through all your processes, right? Understand what happens, right, when you receive a particular request, right? See if there are any gaps, see if it can be full or fake, right? Like at DBS now, we publish, without naming the companies, all the various types of scams that are happening on our website, right? So you as a corporate, right, can go inside, read about what's happening, stay updated. If you see a particular modus operandi hitting you, you can identify it and quickly stop it. Again, it's public information, there's nothing secret about it, right? You learn from the experience of other people that have been scammed. Now, if you're a large company, then of course, I think put into place investments into penetration tests, right? Investments into also reviewing your processes, right? And you may need external agency to come in to go through your multiple things that you do across your organization to see whether there are any areas which are prone to attacks or to scams. Because it only takes a single loophole, right, or a single gap, right, for the scamsters to identify, right? So these people are sitting in scam centers, right, around the world, doing nothing but thinking about what sort of attack, what sort of scam could they think up next, right, to really make the corporate, right, lose money or be vulnerable, right? So this is their full-time job, and this is not your full-time job. So if it's not your full-time job, of course, you're more likely to fall prey to them. So engage people who is their full-time job to think of such things, right? To think about it, how to protect you as a corporation, and really invest in the capability, right? Yes, it may cost a bit of investment to do it, but something like this could save you millions of dollars in the future, right? So for a large corporate with the resources, go about and do that, right? And really evaluate your processes and your infrastructure to see what are the areas which could be vulnerable for attacks.